Money Roots is made possible by the support of our sponsor, Rooted Planning Group. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Look no further than Rooted Planning Group, your trusted partner in financial well-being. At www.rootedpg.com, you'll discover a wealth of resources and expertise to help you thrive financially. Rooted Planning Group specializes in personalized financial planning, investment management, and retirement strategies. They understand that every financial journey is unique, and they're here to guide you every step of the way. With a team of experienced advisors, Rooted Planning Group is committed to helping you cultivate a secure and prosperous future. Visit www.rootedpg.com today to learn more about how Rooted Planning Group can help you grow your money roots. Welcome to Money Roots, the podcast where personal finance gets personal. Each week, Amy and her guests dig deep into the world of finance, making it more approachable and understandable for everyone, no matter where you are on your financial journey. From savings and investments to budgeting and planning, we'll bring you practical advice, inspiring stories, and expert insights. We believe that everyone has the potential to grow a healthy financial future, and we're here to help you nurture it. So whether you're a financial guru or just starting to plant the seeds of your financial knowledge, this is the place for you. Get ready to uncover the tools and strategies that can help you thrive financially. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode of Money Roots.
So welcome to the Money Roots podcast. For first-time listeners, welcome. We hope you enjoy. For returning listeners, we're glad you're back. I'm Kerrie Bean, one of the certified financial planners here at Rooted Planning Group. And today we have Kate. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Kate Welker, another one of the financial planners at Rooted Planning Group. And I'm glad to be back on today and get a chance to chat with Kerrie on the podcast.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about something that's trending online, and we've seen a few articles about it in newspapers and online in some of those articles, and that's the trend of underconsumption. So some of you may be familiar with the term, some of you may not, but as financial planners, we're kind of glad to see it trending. So underconsumption really is just the practice of spending less and saving more, and then sort of avoiding unnecessary expenses. I don't know if you've seen any trends lately, Kate, with that headline.
Yeah, mine's been a little more recent on my social media feeds. I started seeing, it was funny. I think I had seen the first couple videos about 2 days before you were asking me about this start to pop up. And it was really interesting to see this as a trend and how far it had went, and getting into being maybe a little more conscientious of spending, more intentional with what you're buying. Do you need to buy the new thing all the time? Coming just a different view on money and spending and things and how we acquire things than some other social media views have been for a long time.
Yeah, I think, everybody has a different form of media intake, and a lot of younger people do TikTok, but I have seen, I know we're not necessarily in the young category, and we're TikTok users, so we're getting to see some of those trends, but it's become more popular in other places too. So I think it's interesting, the terminology, I think, because it's as a financial planner, it's like, well, isn't this just frugality? Like, aren't we just being smart with our money?
And I think it is to a point, it is frugality. And I think that the point of the movement I've been seeing is to really allow people to be frugal again, because it seemed there was such a boom in, the influencers. And I'm going to use a very feel young term, influencers, and their products and their things. And, we've already mentioned TikTok. If you're a TikTok person, the TikTok shop, now everything is about buy this thing I'm using or product, and you need this t-shirt or these shoes. And it's just very easy to buy things quickly. And I think too, in the world of it was just credit cards, but now with Apple Pay and instantaneous payment, it's easy to just throw something in a cart and hit buy it too. So
Yeah.
I think it became very easy and expected to buy the things that everyone was pushing you. And also the selling items that they're going to make your life better, make your life easier. That was the push of, why do I want these things? What's happening in our world? I want things that are going to either give me a dopamine rush, or I think is going to help my life, and I can clean faster, clean better. I don't know. Whatever you're struggling with at the moment, it's going to supposedly make everything better.
Yeah. Well, and then I think it's not necessarily a new concept. There's been commercials and advertisements forever, but things are like you said, right at our fingertips. So I think it makes it so easy, and I do use Apple Pay, and sharing it with my family on there, and it makes it so easy to pay for stuff that you can get things instantaneously. So I think as financial planners, it makes me think about, financial knowledge is 20% and financial behavior is 80%. And so I think when we're constantly bombarded with these things that we should do or buy or have, or a look we should, or even a feeling, sometimes it's a feeling that it's easy to just want to purchase, especially if someone makes it look amazing online. So I think one other thing that I've seen as a trend that maybe brought on some of the underconsumption trend is two things. Is one, from an economical financial standpoint, is inflation, but then also the trend of de-influencing. So those two things, I think, may have brought on the underconsumption trend.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I think with expenses, especially those essential things like food, anyone that's buying groceries or eating out has seen the increase in expenses that has put potentially a pinch on the budgets in other places. So we're seeing a swing back to saving money. And I think I used the word intentional earlier, being more intentional with what you are purchasing and consuming. And just I think a more awareness of the ways in which we are influenced by what's around us and what we're watching.
Yeah.
Something else that, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I said that something else that Kerrie and I were discussing a little bit beforehand too was thinking about trends over time and looking back at history. And I don't know if it's a rebellion or things change, or I don't want to be like my parents or my grandparents. But if you go back to some of us that are a little bit older, our grandparents came out of the Depression era and they were very frugal. In my family, one of my sets of grandparents especially was extremely frugal because they had to be. It was partly how they'd been raised. They just had to be. They had large families, one working person, and reusing everything, reusing what they could, thrifting what they could. And it was not, some of it was because they had to save the money, but more of it was from this, well, why do you need something? This one's fine. We have a better purpose for our money beyond just buying it, spending that money on things. And I think there was sort of a pullback from that. The next generation that maybe they worked a little bit more, they had better income, they had more expendable income to spend and enjoy the finer things of life. And it feels like the pendulum kind of swung that way a little bit more and then swung that way really far. And it's almost to a point now where it's interesting to see this pendulum starting to swing back, where it's not so much like I'm like my grandparents was a bad thing. Now it's almost this cool thing. Like, hey, I'm like my grandparents, sort of like homesteading and homemaking, things like that are kind of coming back into popularity again. It's this interesting, to me, pendulum swing coming back to these values that were more prevalent, more accepted before. And then you seem to be sort of the weirdo if you were not following the trends or making the purchases.
Right. Yeah. I've seen that a lot too, where people are making their own bread and doing things like that. And I feel like our generation, we missed that because I know my grandparents did it, but for me personally, my parents worked and we didn't have a lot of those habits. And so I think that coming back as a trend too, it's actually nice to see. And I think that seeing people be more intentional, not with just their time and their food and their money, but how they spend their money and how they spend their time. And is this what I want to do? So I think that's a really nice
one video that struck me just as a like anecdotal, version. I like organizational things. I like shiny organizational things, whether I use them or not. They look so pretty. So the videos of people's fridges, their fridge has all the clear containers and things lined up in it. And I personally am a more frugal person. I just couldn't justify the expense, but there's been this want inside of me to just buy those containers, put everything in my fridge and have it organized. Yeah. And I saw a video that was on Underconsumption and was like, hey, look I have my condiments in their original containers in the doors. It's not maybe the prettiest, but it's still organized and it's functional. And I'm not spending extra time or extra money, or even extra time to, rejar everything. Mm-hmm. And that one hit me because here's something I had totally been swayed by. I don't need it. I absolutely don't need it. My items are fine the way they are. They work. It's organized as it is. It just was the shiny object to chase for a little bit.
Yeah. I agree. I'm the same exact way. I see all those, and I try to do this past Sunday, I did like a little Sunday reset and tried to get my life all organized for the week. I'm not always home to do that, but I did do it. But I have had to force myself to do the same thing, especially when you look in your Tupperware drawer. I know Tupperware is an old school word, but you look in your drawer and you have all these plastic containers that we now know probably aren't good for us. And it's really hard to not just throw everything away and start over. But I've just kind of allowed myself to say, okay, well, over time, get rid of the ones that shouldn't be used anymore. They're so decrepit, and then replace them with the pretty glass ones, which we should be using anyway. So I actually have done some of that, but you end up with so many, it'll take some time, but that's definitely the kind of thing that we're talking about. And, not being so influenced by everyone around you and what someone else is doing, which I think is the overall point I think that we want to make today. Just, the trend of underconsumption and how can we utilize it in our lives. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good time to pause. And as you said, for us, why do we want to bring this topic up? So if you are spending less or you really want to be less intentional, is it just to spend less money and save more? And to us, something that's really important in our practice is talking about spending money on the areas that are really important to you. So what are your values? If your value is organization and you like those shiny plastic containers, I don't want anyone to think I'm telling you not to buy them. That is really important to you, and that's where your money should go. For me, I just have other things that are important that I would like my money on. So it might be things like travel. If travel is a big value for your family or adventure, and or for you as an individual, and that is where you would like to have more time to spend on it and resources, that could be something to keep in mind when you're making choices. I have a limited sum of money available. Do I really need to spend it here? If I don't, maybe I could buy something used or something of a different caliber quality that's still completely functional. Or maybe I just really don't need it. Is it another gadget that I really don't need? Because then if I'm not doing that, I have more money to spend on this value that is important to me. And it could also be time. The other thing that is nice to see, and this started a little bit with that kind of the decluttering movement of a few years ago, but is the more things you have, the more time they take up too. So it's also, besides a money resource, a time resource. The less time you have to take care of all of your things, the more time you have to spend on those things that are really important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's, like you said, spending on what matters to you. And then just kind of finding that balance, because it is easy to be influenced. And I like all those things. I want to travel. I want to be organized. I want to, declutter and do all those things. But I think just being mindful, and also too, if you don't live alone, if you do have a partner or a family that you live with, I think it'd be really important to have a conversation with them also, talking about values and what is important, what should we be spending our money on, and just making really intentional choices. And that's something we talk about a lot at the firm with clients. It's just being mindful, and because life is hectic. It's really easy to just live day in and day out and not worry about these things. So.
Yeah. And one word that you just said in there was balance, finding some balance, because I also want to emphasize that underconsumption isn't about being as frugal as you can possibly be. There is balance there. I've seen some people take it too far where they're afraid to spend money on anything. And that I don't think is the point of, we're calling it like a movement, a topic, a trend we're seeing. It's more about being intentional. It's not so much being, hate to use the word cheap, but not spending money or being super. It's being frugal to a wise point and finding that balance between what are my needs, what are my wants, and balancing that.
Mm-hmm. And what's important to you. So, just really, really identifying what's important to you and making sure that's how your money's being spent. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, some tools to use for yourself to start implementing this. There's some advice. It's really easy to spend without thinking. So if this is something that you specifically struggle with, finding some safeguards to put in place to yourself that will trigger you to kind of pause. So one example might be there's something on Amazon, and those that have listened know I don't mind talking about myself and all my problems. Amazon is so easy. So easy to find something, or someone's like, there's a deal. My favorite saying that I hear often is, just because it's on sale doesn't mean you saved money if you didn't plan to buy it to start with. So I'll put it in my cart, and then I will think about it a little bit, because I get for me, it's a dopamine thing. There's that little thrill of like, oh, I just got something. So I'll put it in my cart, and then I'll keep an eye on it and say, like, in a few days, is this something I still really want? Something I need? It does help for me. Sometimes it is. And there's other things that are needs that, like, no, I need to buy this. I'm just buying it. But for those random purchases, that is something that I've done. I know for other people, they have, if having like Apple Pay on your phone is too much of, it's too easy to go to, put a block on that, put something there that's going to kind of stop or make you think each time before you spend, or find an accountability partner. If it's a partner or a friend, someone that you can let know, like, hey, I'm really trying to be better about what I'm buying and just be more intentional. If they know, they can keep you accountable as well.
Yeah. I like that too. I think I'm the same way. We have Amazon, and we have, these things that make it really simple. But I think as we kind of change our mindset and think about things, like for me, I love planners, and I was looking at them recently, and I'm like, you know what? Until I've completely wore out the one I have and it's out of pages, don't look at them again. Just stop. There's no reason for me to. The year's not over. Why am I wasting? And it's a waste of time. So I think to bring it all kind of full circle and think about, why are we talking about this? And we mentioned spending money on what matters to you and finding balance and, making choices. I think at the end of the day, when we do that, then we're able to use the money we've saved or the money we've set aside intentionally to meet goals. And that's ultimately, how we want people to spend their money. I think when we think about setting financial goals and life goals and all these things, I like to see people just think about, more of a life goal, but all of these goals are going to take money. So I think it's important to be intentional and think about our money and how we're spending it or not spending it. And then what do we want to spend it on, which I think is really, at the end of the day, a part of the underconsumption or frugality of it all is being intentional and spending it on the goals that are actually important to us versus just kind of living day in and day out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty. Well, thank you, Kate. Hopefully
thank you.
Kept it a little interesting for everyone, and see you guys at the next episode.
You've been listening to Money Roots, your go-to podcast for making personal finance accessible and approachable. Thanks for joining us today. Amy and her guests have enjoyed guiding you through the roots of your financial journey. Remember, whether you're planting new seeds of financial knowledge or nurturing the growth of your existing financial plans, Money Roots is here to support you every step of the way. Be sure to follow them on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and Instagram for more resources. And, of course, subscribe to Money Roots wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. A big thank you to the sponsor, Rooted Planning Group, for making this show possible. At Rooted Planning Group, they're committed to helping you cultivate a thriving financial future. Until next time, keep growing your money roots.